Have you always wanted that classic film look on your digital footage? I know I have, and for years I have done so many different things to try to achieve this, but no matter what LUTs I use and overlays I use to try to get that 35mm film look or that 16mm look, it never works. Now, I might be able to fool some others, but I personally can look at it and I know that it's not quite right and it kind of looks cheap. This is why I'm so excited to announce and say that I am teaming up with Dehancer to use their new plugin. Now, I've had it for a couple weeks and I've used it on a bunch of projects, and I can say hands down that I will never use anything else to achieve the film look, whether it be overlays or LUTs or any other method that you can think of. I'm going to be using Dehancer for the foreseeable future unless they, shut it down or something. But I really love this software, and I want to talk to you guys about it today. Two things that really excite me about teaming up with the Dehancer, and this video is brought to you by Dehancer, is number one, they are not paying me to say anything in particular. So I do have some negatives that I'll talk about, in this video, but they're not paying for any particular opinion. They've given me a license to the software. And then number two is they are giving anybody watching this video a 10% discount if you want to get the software. Of course, you can do a free trial by going to their website, but then if you use the code EPICCreative, you get 10% off, and it supports the channel, so it's really a win-win. So I'm going to be using this in Premiere Pro because that's the software that I edit in, but you can also get this in a wide array of softwares, including Lightroom, DaVinci Resolve, CapCut, what else is there? There's After Effects, there's Final Cut Pro. So pretty much anything that you are editing in, you can use this software too. Now, before I go any further, please do me a huge solid and like this video. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything. And if you find value in the video, please consider subscribing. Without further ado, let's go over to the computer and talk about the software. Okay guys, I just called it a software. It's actually a plugin, so I want to correct myself there. But the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to go to their website, and I just kind of want to show you some of the features that are here. And I also have a project open here, a wedding teaser that I'm working on. I've actually already graded it, but I took all of the effects off so I can kind of show you my workflow and how I've been using Dehancer and all of the cool little things that I use. Now, this isn't going to be a masterclass, so maybe we'll make a masterclass later on. I'm going to show you the main 5 or 6 things that I'm using it for. And this plugin is very advanced, which is something I like. I like to have full control if I want it, but I'm not going super deep into any of these sliders and stuff. I'm tweaking them here or there. And so that's what you're going to see here today. But if we go over to their website, we can actually just right here on the left-hand side, you've got all the different features that the plugin offers. And I would suggest going through these because there's some stuff that I didn't realize when I installed the plugin that was available. And we're going to talk about a bunch of those. But it's really nice to be able to go through, click these, and it'll automatically take you to whatever feature you want to learn about, and you can read about it and they'll tell you how they're doing it and whatnot. So really cool, really like the website. That's super helpful. But let's go ahead and jump into the software, Premiere Pro, which I'm using, and then go ahead and get the plugin going so we can see how everything works and what they have to offer. Now, talking about this, right? There are a couple things. I've been using Lumetri Color for years for color grading, and I've gotten really good at it, but it has its limitations, but it kind of does the job for, let's say, color correction, not color grading. So I'm still going to be doing all my color correction inside of Lumetri, right? But I'm going to be doing all my fine tuning and filmic effects with Dehancer. So if you install it, you go over here to Effects. We're going to go just type in Behance, and I'm going to drag that. Let's find a clip, like a hero clip, right? I always like to start with a hero clip with my weddings, like a clip that just, would almost be like the thumbnail. Maybe this one's really good. So we're just going to drag this on top, or you can double click. And as you can see, guys, when you first put it on there, it does look a little wonky. It's just like this green overtone, and there's a lot of grain, and that might be what you're going for. The cool thing is this is highly customizable to what you're needs are and what your style is. So first thing, just so I'm not distracted, I'll come over to Lumetri Color and I will just try to do, just by grabbing his white suit jacket, I got somewhere that's maybe even a little closer. But here we go. Let's go to the left-hand panel here. And we're going to look at the actual plugin and what it has to offer. So the first thing is going to be input. This is something I really appreciate and really like. They have over, I think, 60, it might be more. They have a lot of cameras that you can click as the import. Of course, you can do Rec 709. There's a bunch of other inputs here, but I'm going to go to choose camera. And because I shot this with the Fujifilm X-H2S and F-Log2, and they're constantly updating these two because F-Log2 has not been out that long, so it's very impressive that it's already in here. But, if you're shooting with the R6 Mark II, which is another camera that I have, you can use that. You've got all the Canons, the Blackmagics, DJI. That's a big deal, and that's going to come up in a minute because we do have a drone, some drone shots in this teaser that we're going to color and add some film effects to. But, yep, we're going to go ahead and click the Fujifilm X-H2S with F-Log2. And already, I think it's really shaping up. And I'm more of a warm tone kind of guy, so it's looking good so far. Of course, in here, you can control some exposure compensation if it's like too bright for you. There is a color, temperature. There's tint compensation, defringe, and defringe radius. So I don't usually touch any of that unless it just, is way off. And then again, I'll use Lumetri Color to do like my curves and stuff like that and white balance, which you've already seen. So there's my input. That's pretty much it for that. And then if I go to film, now this is where it gets pretty fun because this is where they have all their film stocks, and they have over 60 different classic film stocks in here that you can choose from. And I would suggest going online and looking at film stocks and seeing what you like. I really like the warmer stuff, so like Kodak Gold 200 or 800 is really good. I can't remember what I used for this this teaser when I edited it before, but we're just going to go through and kind of like play around. So here's CineStill 50D. Fujifilm's Inertia 500 looks really good. I think they also have a 800 or a 1600. Maybe it's a 1600. That looks pretty good. And of course, I'm not going to go by what I've already done. I just want to kind of play and do it from scratch. But find the stock you like and apply it. Let's just go with, we'll go back over here to 200. No, that's too much pink there. Yeah, let's go with Kodak Gold 200, right? And so push pull, I'm not really quite sure what this does. I think it's kind of like a way to blend that in. But of course, they've got all this stuff, like the high details. And once, give me 6 months and we'll do a masterclass on this. But they have all the details in depth on their website. But you see I'm enabling and disabling the film stock here. So there's film. The next tab is going to be Film Developer, and I'm going to skip a few of these tabs. So I'm not going to go through Film Developer. Of course, I'm going to talk about the things I use. Again, we'll do a masterclass later once I learn it all because I've had it for 2 weeks. But film compression, I do like the film compression. If you look at their website, just so I don't have to go through all of that and like do it to the footage. But you can see like sometimes with digital footage, you have a lot of that highlight clipping, right? This is a really cool part of the plugin that they've added that it pulls down some of those highlights and gives you a little more headroom. And you can see that here with these mountaintops. And I think it does a really good job. I haven't had the need for it yet or haven't felt the need to use it yet, but I do think it's a handy thing to have, and I'm really glad that they added it. We're going to skip down here to film grain because that's something that a lot of people are after, achieving that cinematic look. And I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger for you guys. And so if you go to film grain, there's a lot of built-in things you can pick. There's 8mm, ISO 50 all the way up to 500, then 16mm, 35mm, and 65mm. I would think I was using the 35mm 250, which you can see gives you this nice little fine grain. And what I want to emphasize here that I'm really impressed about is it's not a overlay. it's actually rebuilding the footage. Now, this can have a toll on your machine. So for me, it's okay to do it right in the clip, but you might want to make adjustment layers so that you can turn it on and off when you're doing other editing tasks and you're not bogging down your machine until it's time to export. But for me, I'm using a M2 Mac. It is got the most RAM you can get. It's the maxed out Mac, and I probably should take it easy on it, but the fact that it'll do this 4K with Dehancer, I like it. I like to see it in real time, and so I use it that way. So that there is the film grain, and you can go to custom and really customize this to your liking, right? But to me, some of these are just fine for what I need, and I really like the way it rebuilds the footage. And if you do some pixel peaking, right, you can see that it's not just overlaying it. And I think it's using a combination of color and light to use an algorithm to rebuild the grain inside of it. So really, really nice. Probably one of the key features, I'd say top 5 features of the plugin. But moving on, and it gets really fun from here, guys, because you're getting to add all those super cinematic things that we see online that we want to achieve and we try to achieve in Lumetri Color or with, some kind of overlay. But here it's all in one package, and I think that's the biggest benefit. But here is Elation. Okay, so Elation is where you get that orange, red kind of glow, or it's not even a glow, it's more of a rim around subjects. And so if I click that on and off, you can see it's adding Elation here. Look, there's the 8mm. Look how intense that is. I mean, and that might be cool. Like that 8mm, that Super 8 right there looks really cool. So what I was using for my Christmas video, which I'll put on screen now, of my kids opening presents and stuff, was this 35mm Super 35 no rim jet, which gives it like a very intense effect. But depending on what you're going for, that could be what you want. And I like it. It might be a little too intense for like a wedding film, but you can see just adds a little touch, and it does make the skin tones pop. That's something I do notice about that. So there's Elation, and that's like probably top 5 too when people think of like cinematic old film looks. And I was actually watching the movie Clueless the other day. If you guys haven't watched Clueless in a while, go check it out. And immediately I said, wow, I got to see what film stock they're using, because it had a lot of Elation and it had a lot of bloom, which is what our next feature is that we're going to talk about. So if we go here to bloom, and you do have to go enable all of these, guys. So if you click bloom and start changing stuff, nothing happens. Make sure you click enable. So bloom, if you don't know, is when it gives all the light sources and the whites a little bit of a glow, right? And I've been achieving this look for the last 10 years with filters, like 4x5 filters or screw-on filters. And that's great, and it's worked really great for me. The problem is, and where this comes in as a huge solution, is the look is baked in. I can never take that glow effect away once I have that filter on top. Now, I love my filters. I've spent God knows how much money on those things, but to be able to do it in here, and honestly, it looks just as good, and I can control it. Like I have 3 4x5 filters that are mist filters that, produce this bloom effect. And they were like $200 a piece. So, that's $600 in hardware basically that I spent money on when I could have just purchased this. And so anyway, hindsight's 2020, right? But and I'll probably still use them here and there, but honestly, the effect is so good here and I can control it. It's a no-brainer. And so yeah, so you can see me toggling this on and off. That is the bloom effect. Again, I like to kind of I don't want to say overdo, but I do like to use all of these, and I like that look, that dreamy look, especially for weddings, because we're talking about weddings here. Now, if I'm doing like my podcast for my bank clients, I'm probably not going to use this plugin at all. That's not what we're talking about. This is when you want to achieve that old film look, right? So let's just go ahead and move on. I'm going to leave bloom effect on. And if we go to film damage, this is another key one that, people want to add into their footage. And again, it's not an overlay. Super cool. It's going to use an algorithm, look at the light, look at the actual image and the colors, and based off of that, it's going to stitch and build the film damage and the film grain. So you're not going to get the same thing twice. You're never going to see that loop. And when I watch my videos where I used overlays like that, I would always see the loop and it would just drive me crazy. No one else probably noticed, but I definitely noticed. So if we enable that, you can see it's adding some film damage there. If we go frame by frame, and there are all kinds of different flavors of film damage. If you go to the 8mm, I think that one's like a little more intense because, 8mm footage would have had a lot of damage on it. And it does help too to like render these out in between. Oh, let me enable that. There we go. So you can see if I go frame by frame, you can see there's a lot of damage going on there, right? Yep. The 8mm is super intense. I don't know why that is. I guess because it was more of a consumer film stock, that maybe it just wasn't maybe as high quality, and then also it wasn't highly protected like the 65 or 35mm was going to be for more of high budgets. So they're using like different methods to load the film, so they're not getting as many dust or scratches on it. But that's film damage, and I really like that. I use that a lot. Overscan, this is something that I'm notorious for. If you just go to my business's website, Facebook, or YouTube, you will see that I use overscans a lot. I don't really know why. I just like them. I guess I've always been like a nostalgic person, and so it allows me to have that nostalgic feel. And normally I would download or purchase some overlays, and I've found some great overlays over the years. But the fact that this is just a button that I can press, and then I can go through the different types, like 8mm, 16mm. There's a bunch of different sizes on the 16mm, the 35mm. This is really cool with the 35 widescreen, ultra panavision. And you see how it's duplicating the image. It's not. That's the hardest part too with using an overlay, is you've got to like do nesting and whatnot to get those images separated and to make it look like it's actually on a film roll. So the fact that this is built in there now, the more you add these little things and enable these little buttons, the more it's going to bog down your machine. And also just the amount of control that is inside of this plugin is really unprecedented, to be honest, especially if you're using something like Premiere Pro. Now, of course, there are other videos out there that are going to talk to you about, how to do this in DaVinci and Final Cut. Personally, I am a big sliders guy. I like the sliders. I like the simplicity. Storytelling is number one for me. I'm not a colorist, but I have to do all my own coloring, so I guess I kind of am a colorist. Like, what is a colorist, right? And I know the colorists are going to go nuts right there. But that's okay, because I do have to color my stuff. So on some level, even at a low level, I am a colorist. But that's Overscan. If we go to Vignette is super handy. If you want to get that, you want to draw the eye to a certain place in the image, there's the vignetting option. And I don't use this very much, but honestly, just clicking that on and off, I think that image looks really good. And also the spacebar turns it on and off, so sometimes I'll accidentally turn it off. But just looking at this image, like, that looks really good. I will admit slow motion doesn't go with this as much because slow motion wasn't around as much back then. But I usually shoot 50-50. I'll shoot a bunch of slow-mo and a bunch of 24 FPS. And so we're just looking at this one image, but just a side note there. And then one of the last things I want to talk about, output's pretty cool. So like, you can change the amount of your total output. So if you get something the way you really, really like it, and then you apply that same Dehancer plugin, copy and paste that to another clip, and it's a little too much, you could always just go to output and tone it down a little bit rather than having to go through all those little tabs and figure out what's going on. Maybe that would be like a quick solution for a quick edit. So output's pretty cool. And then there is LUT generator. Now, I find this, I don't know, this is just like super cool that they thought about this and they added this into it, but you can actually export your own LUTs. And I have the port keys monitors for most of my cameras and the Atomos Ninja 5, so I could actually import these LUTs into those monitors if I had something that I really liked, or I needed a quick turnaround edit, or something like that, or I need real-time compression, and I have a look that I have built in here. It's just like it's like the little details to me that are really impressing me with Dehancer. Again, if you guys want to try this, go do the free trial, and then if you want to purchase it, use the promo code Epoch Creative or Epic Creative. It will be on screen and in the description. It helps me, it helps the channel, and like the video, subscribe. But let's keep going. So I'm gonna do this. So we've got that image. To me, I really like it. And this is not my original, but I really like it. So we're gonna copy, right? And this is in the same setting. But if we paste this, paste our lumetri color just for our white balance and stuff, and then our Dehancer, that looks really good. Man, that looks good. And if I come over here, if I want to do any curves, add anything into the image, I'll usually use the curve here in lumetri. And yeah, that looks really good. Now let's go here. We're going to paste the same image or the same settings, right? Okay, that doesn't look quite as good. That doesn't look right. The lighting's changed there a little bit. So what I'll do is just come over here, change the white balance, pull those midtones down a little bit. I do think it's too green, so we might have to come in here and adjust that. Jump back and forth. But you get the idea. Like, the color part is on you. You've got to figure that out as you go. But you can just copy and paste this, and it'll make your workflow pretty fast. And that's how I go about it. Again, I have a very fast machine. If you come down to a device, it actually recognizes what device you're in. So this is a Apple M2 Max. It does really good. I did experience a little bit of bog towards the end of the feature film of this wedding that I did. But as long as you're, just keeping those things in mind with the machine you have, I think going forward, I might use adjustment layers just so I can toggle it on and off easily. But for my first couple projects with Dehancer, it wasn't a big deal. But I have a fast machine. Now, that is pretty much going to be it for the Premiere Pro plugin. Let's go back to the website because I just want to talk to you a little more about some of the things. So they do have a false color. Let's go find it. They have a false color and clipping tool that you can get and use. It's probably really handy. I have not installed that yet, but I just want to make you aware of that. Let's see, the 3D LUT that we talked about. I'm just going to quickly go through these. They have 130 plus camera profiles, including drones. So that's super, super handy. Let's see, we talked about the vignetting. What else is there? The bloom effect, the film compression, the developer, the film developer. Okay, so let me read this for you guys. So make your own development recipe depending on the source material, shooting conditions, and creative task. Film developer is handy with specific shots and cameras which you want to standardize and make easier to process. Okay, so that's what film developer is. That's really neat. Of course, you got the Overscan. We talked about that, getting that nostalgic look. The film damage, we looked over that. That's like a top 5 feature in my opinion. Bloom, top 5 feature. Elation, that's what everybody's putting into their footage nowadays. So really, this has taken the place of about 4 or 5 things that I was doing with adjustment layers and putting it all into one plugin. And if we jump over here to, if we go to try now. Whoops, try now. Dang it. Okay, well, I was going to look and see about, okay, here we go. We're going to go into just see what the price is. So Dehancer Pro is what you just looked at. Has everything that I just used. Again, guys, if you use my promo code Epoch Creative, all one word, EPOCHCREATIVE, you will get 10% off. It supports me. It gives you, $50 off. It's a win-win. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not just saying this because I don't need to say this. I get all kind of endorsement offers on a weekly, monthly basis. I will be using this going forward pretty much every project, unless it's super corporate and needs to be super clean for my more creative and filmmaking projects. I'll be using this. Okay, guys, the last thing I want to talk about is Dehancer has a mobile app, which is really cool. So we're going to open that up right now because I want to take a look at that. So we go into the mobile app. As you can see, go ahead and download that, you guys. You get the trial and you can test it out, see if you like it. But if I go in here and click an image, or I can actually take an image. That's not what I want to do, sorry. I want to go and find an image. I'm just going to pick this one of my 3 kids right? These are my kids, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. But if I look at this, right, you've got all these different presets that you can choose. And this is another thing, man. Like I use just the Apple, photo app to edit my photos. But honestly, now that this is available, I think I'll just be using this. But see, I can go ahead and pick all these different presets, which is really nice. But then if you want to go to edit, then you can really fine tune some of the things in there, exposure, the tonal contrast, saturation, etc. If you go to color head, this is where you can adjust some of those settings, add in film grain, very similar to what we looked at in Premiere Pro, guys. Custom profile, let's go add in that. So you get the grain, halation, again, you can add halation to it. You can add bloom. Let's see, vignetting. I mean, there's really nothing that's on the desktop plugin that I cannot add, which is really neat. And yeah, Overscan. You can add Overscan as well. So those are all the features inside of compression. There's compression. Let's see what else we got. We got films. Yeah, crop it. You pretty much do anything you want to in here, guys. It's really neat. I'll be using it just because I really like the features inside of the desktop plugin. So if I can access those features quickly to just make quick edits on my phone, I will certainly be doing that. Again, I would download it because it's free to download. That's the other cool thing, is like you can just use all the settings to download it. And if you decide, yes, this is something I want, then you can make the purchase to get the watermark off. Again, if you guys decide to make a purchase of the desktop app or of the mobile app, just use the promo code Epoch Creative. That's EPOCH Creative. Get 10% off, support the channel, and it's a win-win. That's pretty much all I got for you guys. I know this was like a longer video, but I really wanted to dive deep into the Dehancer and show you what they had to offer. I think this has been a good video. I think that now you should have a basic understanding, and maybe this will help you in your purchasing process. Do me a favor before you leave, like the video, because that helps me in the algorithm. If you found this content helpful, useful, or if you just want to be a pal, hit the subscribe button. But yeah, without further ado, I am out of here. I've got to go edit the feature of that wedding now, so peace.